Today I'm going to try to draw this statue on Jeju Island in South Korea. And yes, I know, the paper is bright. I told you it would be a thing. Anyway, if the internet hasn't led me astray, this statue portrays what is called a Haenyeo. Please excuse the pronunciation if it's incorrect. Which is a female freediver from Jeju Island. And the history of these divers is pretty cool. I was told that they came into being due to a large portion of the men of the island dying, whether by war or something like being lost at sea, ultimately forcing the women of Jeju to take up more of a matriarchal position in their families, diving for food like urchins and abalone for sustenance. Actually, they're a big reason for my wife wanting to visit Jeju. She read a novel a few years ago based on these Haenyeo divers titled The Island of Sea Women, which I'm sure goes much more in depth than I'll be going in here. We were lucky enough to see a few of these women along the coast, as well as post-dive, which was really cool, delivering some of their catches of the day to local restaurants. Unfortunately, it kind of felt as though tourists sort of treat them like attractions, like spectacles. For example, every time one would walk by, people would gather around and take pictures. So I did my best to try to give them some space. Not this one, though, because she's made of stone. All right, let's get into it. This one diverges pretty dramatically from the previous four. Such an organic shape is totally new to me. And let me just say, it was really refreshing. I guess you could say that the coastal views were also natural forms, but attempting to draw something like this that represents a person, it felt a lot more forgiving. None of the shapes needed to be too precise. I took some time to test the waters, making some of my famous unconfident lines. But this time, I think it helped. Since this is so new to me, I'm not really sure where the right line exists, if that makes sense. So by easing my way into the drawing with some of those looser, lighter lines, I could see the general shape sort of materialize somewhere like within them. I'd imagine that's probably not a good habit to pick up, but until I get a better understanding of how to semi-accurately measure things out by eye, maybe that's just the way forward for now. You'll notice that right now I'm going for more of a blockier shape, so that I can hopefully home in on a more refined shape later on. I want to make sure that the proportions of the head and the raised arm and the rest of the body all match as best as I can manage. This one definitely feels more like I'm sketching something out. Like when you think in your head of what a sketch looks like, that's how it felt to do. I'm really giving myself the opportunity to work it out on the page rather than in my head. And that's something like everything else, I'd love to get better at, just seeing how it is appearing to me. But it probably helps that I'm also fixated on the statue itself, not really worrying about any of the surrounding context. Unlike the other drawings, the lantern notwithstanding, this one doesn't have any other elements for me to consider. As I work on this one, I'm thinking about how cool it would be to eventually draw some real people. I don't know, I'm probably putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but something like that would be a long way down the line. But if I can progress to that degree, to such a degree that I could sit down, just frame up someone's face on the left side, like a friend, having a conversation with someone off screen, something like that, and draw them in real time, I would just be so pleased with myself. It's not necessarily a primary goal of mine, but how great would that be? It just makes me really excited to think about stuff like that. Um, okay, so the proportions that I'm putting down are far from perfect, but I'm actually not too displeased so far. I'm happy enough with the general shape that I can kind of go back and solidify some of those lines. The shading like under her jaw, that kind of stuff. I'm a little bit more comfortable with now because the general shape's kind of lined up. Um, that said, this one really felt like I was taking forever to do it. Uh, uh, so I definitely start to rush here in a moment with the shading, but I think that's okay. Also, that shadow you just saw in the bottom right corner was another old man. Would you believe it? And there you can see I'm lining all that up a little bit better now. But yeah, another old man walked up behind me, like in the temple video, and again stood for what felt like way too long. And all he said was sketch, and then he walked away. Which, yeah, technically that's what it is. But it just felt so, I don't know, just so kind of undermining. But he walked away and it's all fine. Anyway, it's one thing I've noticed is how fascinating it is, the things you start to see um, in something when you start to draw it. For example, this fly keeps bothering me. For example, the longer I look, I'm seeing subtler and subtler shades, like shadows. Not that my hand knows what to do with that information just yet, but it's pretty cool to sense that shift going on. When I walked up to the statue, I wouldn't have been able to point out like the shadow on the bottom of what would be her left arm, so screen right. But after sitting here for so long, those things stand out just so clearly. Um, Also, on that note, on the shading note, which is what I'm currently trying to do people shade with different techniques? And what I mean to say is, do individuals tend to favor certain methods of shaving, certain methods of shading and stick with one, or are certain methods simply better than others and would be utilized on a drawing to drawing basis? I ask because I feel like I've seen certain drawings that make use of only one method. Like hatching seems to be a pretty common one. And I use that example mostly because I don't know any other names of techniques. Um, but I wonder if that artist consistently, or at least more often than not, would opt for that one method, or do they only use it for the drawings in which using that technique makes the most sense? Does that make sense? I don't know. I just wonder if people learn a myriad of methods and favor one of them, or if they prefer one over others and use it um, as part of their aesthetic. If it's the latter, I wonder what method I would end up leaning into. Because it feels like you should, I guess, learn them all and utilize them all at different times. For instance, right now I'm using a swirly method, which I think is the professional term. And I don't really know what else to do here. For instance, hatching, the thing that I've mentioned already. I don't know exactly how I would do that in this drawing without the lines being longer than I would want them to be. I don't think you do one long line because I guess that wouldn't be hatching. But all of those micro horizontal lines, I would think they would make the left side of the statue's body, it would look like there's more shadow than there really is. Instead, I'm going in and sort of, doing these squiggly, swirly lines. And once again, I'm doing them quite lightly because I'm not confident with them. I'm not totally sure if that's the right way to go about it. Um, but that's what I went with. So if you know of maybe a resource I could use for shading, I know there are a million on YouTube, and that's probably what I'll end up doing. Um, Definitely leave it in the comments for me because I could really use it, um, as you can see. But anyway, this one by no means incredible, but I'm reasonably happy overall. Um, Thanks to the whole organic shape thing, it's plain to see what it is that I drew. Although I wouldn't say it looks like stone, um, I'll take what I can get. It does kind of just look like I tried to draw a person, but whatever. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to watch this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.